Hello once again, I'm Cosmic, and today we're going to be taking a look at turn-based tactical espionage game Invisible, Inc. The game itself was developed by Klei Entertainment, who were also the developers behind Mark of the Ninja, Don't Starve and Shank, all of which were pretty successful outings for the company. Set in a futuristic science fiction world where corporations control everything, a spy organisation known as Invisible causes the corporations numerous problems. The organisation is run by a woman known as Control and her sophisticated AI, Incognita. As the game starts, the spy agency is attacked by the corporations, and Control barely escapes with her life alongside Incognita's hard disk, which, unless housed in a massive server system, will disintegrate in the next 72 hours. Invisible Inc.'s story pulls a classic narrative technique frequently used in the real-time strategy genre. The player is pulled into the story directly by having their interactions with the agents explained. The player is an operator who can take control of agents via a neural link. Thus, the player in the dialogue scenes is directly addressed, trying to create a more immersive environment for the game. The technique has been previously heavily used in RTS games, particularly in the Command & Conquer series, where you are always referred to as Commander. Invisible throws elements of a roguelite into its core mechanics. In fact, many elements of the game are very similar at the core to XCOM. The game has a lot of options when it comes to difficulty, with several modes available to choose from, including an endless mode to see how long you can survive. One mode in particular lets you customize what restriction and mechanics you want to put in place, or indeed exclude. Once you've started the game, you'll enter the world map screen. The game's premise works around Incognita's 72-hour degradation time. Within this time limit, a variety of missions will be available, each offering a different reward. Some missions will have a focus on acquiring a piece of equipment, others will have you raiding vaults for cash, getting cybernetic augments, or even rescuing captured agents. Moving between locations on the world map will elapse time, so careful consideration is crucial. The less distance travelled between each location means you'll be able to do more missions overall because the less time has elapsed. But then again, you also have the case of there may be a really important good mission with a really good reward on the other side of the world, so it's often a choice between risk and reward. Levels in Invisible Inc. are randomly generated, so you'll never encounter the same level twice, which adds to its overall replayability. While you are never going to encounter drastically different locales, it does stop the levels from becoming very easy or boring in terms of their layouts. One of the biggest issues in the game is the tutorial. It does not do a good job of explaining some of the more higher advanced mechanics of the game, which does lead to confusion as the game's difficulty increases. Your first time round, there are only 2 agents available to play. However, each completion of the game earns you unlocks to more agents and more equipment. All agents have varying starting stats and equipment. Agents' starting equipment in particular and stats usually makes them good at a specific task, such as hacking. However, agents are fully customizable in terms of their equipment and statistics, so you can change them to suit your tactics. Agents, on top of their stats and equipment, also have cybernetic augments that provide a variety of passive effects as well as a few active ones. The game works from a traditional turn-based action point system, whereby everything your agents do, from movement to actions, will cost AP. This means that it's possible to move and do several actions depending on the pool of AP available for that agent. An agent's pool of AP depends on their stats, and it can be affected by other things such as augments. For example, one agent had an augment that basically allowed her to gain AP back when something was successfully hacked. Hacking itself is a major mechanic of the game that is relied upon to do most actions and complete the majority of objectives. Pressing the spacebar throws you into Incognita view mode, whereby you can use the power resource that is accumulated by agents manually hacking terminals. You can use this view to hack any mechanical device via Incognita. Each hackable device will have a number of firewalls, and each hacking attempt will decrease that firewall until it's fully hacked. In harder levels, some devices will contain daemons, which are essentially computer viruses. Unlocking a device with a virus will have a random effect on the level, usually to your detriment. Incognito has several hacking abilities available, which you can purchase through specific terminals on levels. However, they will be pricey, so be prepared to spend a ton of credits if you want to improve your Incognito view mode. The hacking system works really well in the game and provides an additional layer of depth to the tactics. Not only are you thinking about your AP use of your agents and all their actions, but planning out which devices to hack in the level is key. Hacking cameras will gain you sight into an area so you can watch enemy movements. The power resource can be hard to come by in some levels, so making sure you actually have enough to complete your main objectives is a must. The power resource does become somewhat annoying particularly when you're at a high alert level and end up kind of not completing an objective because you can't hack that final terminal because there's no resource left to gain in that particular level. It's a very frustrating part of the game, to say the very least. Moving unseen and stealth is crucial to success in the game, and that's very much reinforced by one main mechanic, the alarm system. Each turn, the alarm system will slowly go up, eventually reaching level 1 and so on and so forth. If your agents are seen by guards, surveillance cameras, or a variety of mechanical bots, the alarm level will rapidly increase. Each time the alarm system goes up a number, something will happen to make the level more difficult. This can basically appear in the form of heavily armoured guards that fly in, more cameras activating, the firewall level on hackable devices increasing, etc, etc. Line of sight in the easier modes is clearly visible. Should an agent get spotted by a guard and then move into one of the tracked zone marked red, you will be shot. However, all is not lost. Your other agents can rescue them by either carrying them to the exit zone or reviving them using Medigel. If you have Medigel in your limited inventory. Failing a mission and having to leave and run away can and most likely will happen at some point. In those cases, the focus is just keeping your agents alive, as any wounded agents that get left behind stay behind permanently. It's essentially the game's own version of permadeath. Should a situation become unrecoverable, which can very well happen, the game modes do have a limited number of something called rewinds, which is essentially rewinds time a couple of turns at most prior to when you actually hit the rewind button. But the harder difficulty levels will have fewer rewinds, and the most difficulty levels will have 0 rewinds, so it's all about what you've got one shot and that's it, and if you get it wrong, it's tough luck. Now, of course, just because frontal assaults always end badly doesn't mean your agents are powerless against the guards. Agents are equipped with melee stunners that are perfect for ambushing guards around corners or sneaking up behind them. These stunners come in a variety of forms, and the more powerful stunners will be needed to take on armoured personnel. Guards won't be out for long, however, usually for 3 turns or so at the most, but while they're down, it's a perfect opportunity to agents move freely, also to steal items from the downed guards for things like credits and door access cards. In my opinion, the main mechanics of the game are solid and they do work well together. There are a couple of built-in annoyances with the hacking and also how you have to buy most of your equipment in the actual levels rather than on the main map world or a specific shop on the main map. The hacking system with the AP system complement each other and provide great tactical depth in each level. The game forces you to kind of play chess in your head, having to think a few moves ahead often without even knowing what rooms are ahead. It encourages caution overall, but at the same time, the game does have great payoffs when risking it big. One of the most notable features of the game is its art style. Klei have a great knack for creating great looking visuals, and Invisible Ink is no exception. It's got style and flair in its visual approach, and its vivid colour palette and cartoon-esque character models just look fantastic. The game certainly stands out visually, and its art style will stop the game from aging, so it will look great in years to come. The sound and voice acting isn't too shabby either, with most of the main cast doing a great job. My main complaint with the game is that it's flat out too short. Yes, there's replayability built in, but the actual narrative campaign can be completed in a matter of hours. It's a real shame, because the narrative was pretty interesting in my opinion, and the ending felt more like an opening up rather than an actual end. Like that part you get in Final Fantasy games after you've played like 10-15 hours, and you think it's just about to end, and then you get almost like an opening up of the whole actual game, and the game really opens up. It felt cut short, almost like the developers created a really solid proof of concept and then kind of tacked on a horde of modes to add length rather than extending the main campaign. Almost as if they're creating something that they didn't believe people would actually like. I wanted more of the actual story. I wanted to know more about Invisible and its characters and what happens. On one hand, it's great that a game was fun enough to leave me wanting more, but there's a difference between wanting more because it's good and wanting more because you feel there was a lack of narrative. Invisible Ink left me wanting more in both respects. I don't want to play the game again with new agents. I want to play a longer narratively driven campaign. I want a longer story mode. I thought that the 72 hours was just the beginning and not the proverbial be-all and end-all. I was hoping for kind of XCOM length game, but it just wasn't there, and for no good reason. The game is solid. The few cutscenes that were in there were fantastic and looked wonderful. The world and the story was interesting. It left me thinking at the end what it could have been rather than what it was. Yes, it's a great indie game, but it's also massively disappointing. I was disappointed when the game ended, and I certainly think that had the developers put in a longer campaign, it would have made the entire experience tremendously better. So that is pretty much Invisible Ink. Thank you so much for watching. Do like, subscribe, and leave a comment, and let me know what you think of the game if you bought it, and I will see you next time.